thou not help the father? That was a quote from the Vavitch.
The Vavitch.
Did you know it's a New England folktale?
No, I didn't.
It says it right on the poster.
Nice.
Okay.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Awful Takes podcast, the show where we talk about movies, music, and movie news, and we provide our awful takes.
Or a take.
Yeah. I don't know anything. I really don't. And I'm shocked that people are listening to this show.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's just, I guess, the
format of the show.
The format, yeah.
I like to pretend like I know what I'm talking about when I really don't.
Exactly. But thank you guys for tuning in. We really appreciate it. And thank you for sitting through the next hour or two. And me and Wallied are taking up time out of your day, so we appreciate that you're here.
Yeah, and we do apologize in advance for that. I'm sure you guys have other things to do in your life, so yeah, thanks, guys.
We are on episode 49.
One more,
and then we're at 50.
How do you feel with that?
I'm excited. I'm excited. This has been a lot of fun, and it's something that I guess regardless of views, I mean, we're always going to be doing this. This is just too entertaining for me, and I probably listen to myself more than anyone else who listens to this show.
I'm the same way, dude. I like to listen to this more than I like doing that, especially when I'm editing. I'm like, okay, that don't sound too bad.
So thank you guys for joining us. We really appreciate it. All right, we got a little bit of news that we wanted to cover. I guess this one's kind of more pertaining to TV. I know we haven't really talked about this. I've kind of mentioned this show's adaptation a few times, and I've kind of kept it pretty brief. But before we came in, Wallied's been telling me that he's actually all cut up with the show now, which I kind of wanted to mention because there's going to be some significant changes regarding the show moving forward. The show we are talking about is The Last of Us, HBO Max, probably just HBO now, HBO's adaptation of the beloved video game, literally probably one of the greatest games of all time, The Last of Us, which came out in 2013. And
crazy.
Yeah, we have an adaptation for it that's been going on for a couple of years now. They just concluded season 2 this year. Kind of came out to some mixed reviews and everything. So yeah, I mean, I will say I enjoyed season 1. Season 2 had some missteppings for me, but I guess I'll say overall I kind of walked away with just like a kind of whelmed feeling. I was like, all right, you know, that was the show.
Yeah, it's okay. Definitely kind of felt like part 1 of like 2 of like The Last of Us part 2, which was not something I expected with this.
And it's dealing with arguably one of the most controversial characters in video game history, Abby. And now I'm very curious to see moving forward how season 3 is going to be. Overall, like the reception and everything. I just remember being super excited for The Last of Us before it came out, the video game. I remember being just such a huge fan of Naughty Dog and the work that they do. And hearing that they were working on this zombie game really was exciting to me, especially back then when zombies were at the peak of their popularity. It was really cool to see what the studio behind Uncharted did. And then with this TV adaptation, I was always excited, but also a little hesitant just because you grow so attached to the game and how it unfolds and the actors who are in it. And now it's crazy to see the general populace has their own interpretation on this story, you know, which I find very interesting just because for me, it's been something that I've always talked about for the past, 12 years. And now that the general populace is reacting to characters like Joel, Ellie, now Abby, and it's just like, this is so interesting. But now we come to find out, this was a couple months ago, that Neil Druckman, creator of the Last of Us game and one of the writers, directors, and everything, is not going to be a part of season 3. And him and this other guy, Craig Mazin, the showrunner of Chernobyl, have been show running,
Yeah.
co-show running this series. And now Neil Druckman is stepping away to focus on, obviously he's the head of a studio, so a video game studio. So he kind of probably has his hands tied in a lot of stuff.
There's a little bit other priorities for sure. Yeah.
So I guess, Wallied, overall, your interpretation of, or not your interpretation, your kind of thoughts on these 2 seasons and then now season 3, losing one of its showrunners. What do you think of that?
Really enjoyed the first season. I was kind of like really surprised. Granted, it is just kind of shot for shot of the video game, but one thing that like my dad and I were having a conversation about after we were watching the show was like, it's like kind of more of like for people who don't play the video games, like maybe this is a way for them to be introduced to the story and everything for people who don't have really time for the game. So I kind of saw it more from that perspective, and I was like, this actually surprisingly really works and is very effective. But yeah, with the second season, I was just kind of a little bit more indifferent towards it just because there's some decisions in the second game that they kind of just do shot for shot with the show that I was just kind of like, oh, okay, we're just kind of doing this again. You know, you're not going to really like improve or fix kind of some of the issues, you know, because I was kind of hoping with like them collaborating as being co-showrunners, like that was maybe something they were going to maybe work as a team on. But with Neil Druckman leaving, though, I am very interested to see what it'll be like with Craig Mazin just kind of taking over, you know, seeing as obviously like, you know, the first 2 seasons, you know, Neil Druckman has clearly obviously had a big part in those first 2 seasons, and it's clearly like his vision. So I'm just kind of like, I want to kind of see what direction they'll take with Abby in that 3rd season, you know, and kind of what risks or just kind of where they take that story, you know, just because it is such a controversial story.
After each episode, they do like a post-show kind of wrap-up showing behind-the-scenes interviews and things like that. And I will say, with a lot of this stuff, Craig Mazin, and not even to mention also watching their Last of Us or listening to their Last of Us show podcast, Craig Mazin hasn't provided a lot of ideas that I've actually found to be that good. I feel like a lot of the stuff he proposes really, I haven't really gelled with, besides maybe some of the stuff in season 1. In season 2, I just feel like overall, there was a tonality issue for me. Sorry, this is kind of like a little review, so spoilers.
Yeah, okay. I didn't know if you wanted to get into spoilers or anything.
But I kind of want to talk about this just because it really kind of bothered me. So with season 2, it's obviously following the part 2 game. And in the part 2 game, there's a very dark through line throughout it. And it's Ellie seeking revenge about this person, you know, and you see the darker side of that. You see how far she's pushed to in the game, and man, she just goes on like a murdering spree. I mean, that's part of the game, is you have to kill people.
Right. Yeah.
But regardless of that, even in cutscenes and everything, she's literally brutally killing so many people. And then now in the show adaptation, the tone was just super off with Ellie's revenge story and her friend Dina. I was just like, I don't really feel like these characters are being driven by this revenge and this vengeance storyline. It just, the tone, anytime the 2 girls were together, I just felt like this is just not close to the video game at all. And I feel like the show was really scared to show that side of Ellie. And I feel like they tried to dumb it down a little bit.
Which kind of surprised me, honestly. I was like, huh.
And I was just like, here, like, granted, I wasn't too big of a fan of part 2, the game, when it came out. I've grown to like it definitely a lot more.
Yeah, same.
But man, that revenge storyline was just something that I remember walking away with, and I really enjoyed it. And the show just really was, I felt like it was scared to show any of that. And I was like, that's literally probably the best part of the game.
Yeah. I feel like you get like small hints of it, but then they just kind of like restrain itself back, which is kind of surprising, honestly, for a show that is a little bit more adult and everything. And it's obviously a little bit more in line with the game. So,
and now here, like a lot of those decisions, at least I'm assuming, especially with these interviews and the podcasts and stuff, is a lot of that was Craig Mazin's idea. And now I'm not too excited for this season 3 now because of how he's, you know, treated these characters and everything. So it's like now that he's got to do Abby's storyline and you show the other side of this thing, I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know how this is going to work. Like, I'm really sad Neil Druckman's not involved, but I mean, if they want to just keep doing it and get it done, I understand that. But there was definitely a lot of tone issues I had with season 2. Really kind of bothered me. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens when season 3 comes out. I'm assuming it's probably like another 2 years away.
It'll probably be like 2027 or so.
We need to, I want to get streaming shows. Definitely, like, we got to stop the whole 8 to 10 episode seasons.
I feel like it's just too short, you know?
And then we wait 2 or 3 years in between seasons.
Because that's how I felt with the ending with season 2. I was like, oh, okay. Like right when it's getting to like the kind of more interesting side of the story, it's like, oh, it's a cliffhanger. You got to wait another couple of years. I'm like, why do that? You know, like what's the point?
We got to get away from that. I swear. It's just every time that happens, I'm like, great. Now we got to wait even more, you know?
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Okay.
All right. Next piece of movie news. Wallied, what are we talking about?
Okay. So let me pull up the article. We're talking about Nabahi's favorite filmmaker, Ridley Scott.
Ridley Scott.
One of the things he said was that Hollywood is drowning in mediocrity. So he's been kind of... Okay, so he's been kind of reflecting on the state of the film industry. One of the quotes he gave is this, so I'm just going to read it out here. So I'll try to say this without laughing. He said, well, right now I'm finding mediocrity. We're drowning in mediocrity, the director admitted when answering an audience question about his regular viewing habits and if he has a comfort film. So what I do, and it's a horrible thing, but I've started to watch my own movies and they're actually really good. And also, they don't age. I watched Black Hawk Down the other night and I thought, how the hell did I do that? But I think that occasionally there's a good one that will happen. It's like a relief that there's somebody out there who's doing a good movie.
Oh my
God. So yeah, there's that quote. And then he later on said, the quantity of movies that are made today, literally globally, millions, there's not thousands, there's millions. And most of it is crap. 80 to 60% A, 40% is the rest, and 25% of that 40 is not bad, and 10% is pretty good. And the top 5% is great. I'm not sure about the portion of what I've just said, but in the 1940s, when there were perhaps 300 movies made, 70% of them were similar, for example. I think a lot of films today are saved and made more expensive by digital effects because what they haven't got is a great thing on paper first. Get it on paper. And then he spoke about some of his best loved movies, like Blade Runner was his most personal film to date, and that Alien was a difficult experience for him. So yeah, basically that's what he says, and he just kind of strokes his ego a little bit more in the article. So yeah, how did you take this?
So
how did you take this, Nabahi?
All right, he's talking about mediocrity and everything. And one thing I'll speak to what he's saying is, yes, there are lots of movies being made now. It's the same conversation we have with music, and eventually I feel like it's going to happen to other mediums, is the tools are so widely available now that you are going to hear and see a lot more than we're used to, you know? Anyone can pick up a camera now and make a movie. There are movies that have been released in theaters that use iPhones. Like now people can make movie. Like
I mean, look at searching. Like that whole film is like on a desktop.
When you buy your iPhone, it has movie editing software in it. It has 3 different camera lenses. It's just like it's gonna happen, you know. And I don't necessarily think that's a problem. Just because you never know what could be really good. You never know who can have a talent for making a movie. You know?
can do a lot of creative things with very limited resources.
Exactly. You know? So now what we're seeing is a bigger influx of movies and things like that, just because the tools are so widely available. Anyone can do it now. So yeah, you're going to see a lot more movies that aren't necessarily that great. And now with streaming, you're going to get movies that are made for that audience to watch at home. They're made for the people who like those types of things. And yeah, they may not necessarily be the greatest. I just find it really funny that he's talking about mediocrity when his last, I don't know how many films I just haven't cared for, and they're just so boring. Like what? Come on, Gladiator 2. I've seen the scenes where he's fighting these CGI, and here he is talking about CGI. He had these CGI monsters that they're fighting in the Coliseum and everything. I'm just like, what is this? Oh my God, that's so hilarious that he says that. And then not to mention Napoleon came out, and so many people I knew saw it, just said how boring it was. Yeah. And again, like I'm at the point with Ridley Scott where I actively, it's going to take a lot for me to go and watch one of his movies now. You know, I will have to hear some really great things for me to want to go and watch it, because talk about mediocrity. That's literally what this guy has been doing for the last 10 years. Oh my God.
House of Gucci was literal mediocrity. How dare you waste Lady Gaga for a movie, bro? Come on.
And it's like, that's just, I find that so hilarious. I really don't know what prompts this guy to say that type of stuff.
Yeah, it is. I to an extent, I kind of understand where he's coming from with there is so much stuff coming out. There really is, you know, especially now, like, God, like there's so many movies to watch. There's even more to watch now than there was like 10, 20 years ago. But it's just the way this guy says it is just so pretentious and up its own butt. And with something that just kind of bothers me with him is like, he says this, but yet I don't understand why he doesn't maybe just go and find other younger filmmakers to maybe like mentor, or maybe help out, or maybe finance their projects. You know, I feel like he's at that age now where I feel like he should probably maybe do that a little bit more, you know, especially because obviously, you know, he has a couple good things, you know, but I feel like if he would just maybe coach or mentor people how to direct, I think that could be like a good plus, you know, and maybe showcase like the future of film. I just don't understand why he doesn't do that.
And with film and everything being an expression, being an art form, you know, that's just something that's going to happen is people are going to make their own interpretations of that art form, you know?
Right.
It's literally the same as, you know, a kid drawing something. Like, sure, it's not going to be that great, but he has the paper, he has the crayons or markers, whatever. He's going to make art. And it's up to us to determine how to interpret that. You know, do we like it? Do we think it's something that's great? And it's just like that's the thing, is art is so, you know, personal, you know, so we're going to see a lot more of that. We're going to see a lot of different interpretations of this medium, you know, and that's the one thing I think as a veteran filmmaker, he's probably having a hard time understanding, is because the buy-in was so limited when he was coming up in the world of film and everything. Right. Not everyone had access to cameras, you know, not everyone knew how to edit and things like that. But now everything is totally changed. And
everything's kind of a lot more accessible and everything like that too, you know?
Yeah.
And then I guess the other thing that just kind of bothered me was just like him just kind of stroking his ego throughout the article, being like, yeah, I like watching all my own movies.
That's wild.
They're really good. Like, obviously he mentions the Black Hawk Down example. I haven't seen that film, so I can't say anything. But
that's not bad.
Yeah, but I'm curious though if he's seen House of Gucci, or if he's seen maybe like The Martian or something like that. I wonder really, like, I'd love to see like a commentary track of him just like watching the film.
That's the thing. It's like the only things I ever hear him comment on is Blade Runner and Alien. Yeah. And it's like, dude, like how long ago were those movies? Like that's all you talk about. And he has this protective nature around these IPs. And it's just like, dude, these IPs are doing way better without you. Like, I'm sorry. And I know there are those Prometheus fans out there. I know there's those Alien Covenant fans out there. But it's just like he's not even one of the writers. Like that's my thing. It's just like,
well, even with like the original Alien, he didn't, like I said, he didn't really come up with like the idea or anything. The designs came from like a totally different project and everything too. And, you know, and just him to just kind of be like taking credit and all this stuff. It's just like, dude, like, relax, man. Like, you got to give credit to some of the other people that helped out.
And he does a good job making those movies. But even then, it's just like, I would expect someone with a lot more, power behind them, a lot more movies to talk like this. Like, that's the thing, is there are better filmmakers than him who don't talk like this.
And they're very humble and grounded.
Yeah, and that's why I'm like, where is this guy coming from? Like, this guy acts like he invented film. And it's just like, come on, dude. Like, you're making these, literally his last two movies were just some of the most forgettable movies.
Yeah, I haven't seen them, so I can't say.
And he points the finger everywhere else besides himself. And it's just, anytime he praises himself, he talks about projects that are 40 plus years old by now.
I'm like, yeah, you got to move on. But, well, and I guess, yeah, I mean, it's so funny you mentioned that with like, I just remember with the whole last Duel thing where he was just he's all, I blame millennials for not going to see my movie. They all just want to be on their phones all day.
Oh my God.
Oh, man.
That's wild.
Yeah. Crazy stuff.
Yeah.
He's in a strange place, Ridley Scott.
Just right when you don't think he's going to say anything else, he comes out with more stuff. And I just don't know what to think with him.
But
yeah.
You are part of the problem, sir.
All right, Wallied, the Halloween horror all-inclusive extravaganza continues with what suggestion?
Okay. God. All right, I recommended The Vivitch.
The Vivitch.
By Robert Eggers. It's crazy. It's his debut film. It's from 2016. It's got Anya Taylor-Joy and Ralph Ineson and a bunch of other actors. And I guess to kind of tell you the plot of this movie, because there's, I think, a plot, maybe. But yeah, basically a family gets exiled from their colonial village. Is set in like the 1620s, if I remember correctly. A witch takes their baby and the family kind of, things kind of take a turn, I guess you could say, for the worse, So I'll kind of talk briefly about my introduction to this film. So this actually, my brief introduction to this film, and then I guess Robert Eggers in general. So I was introduced to Robert Eggers during COVID. I saw there was a film of his I saw before this called The Lighthouse, which I remember really loving and enjoying. Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson are really great in that film, and it obviously showcases, I think, that isolation. Being isolated from someone, I think in a really kind of fascinating way, especially with how it kind of uses like sea folk and mermaids, things like that. So I saw this one a couple years after. I didn't really know too much about it, and I was kind of pleasantly surprised. I was like, from what I remember when I first saw it, I remember really enjoying the atmosphere of it. Some of the stuff I remember finding very disturbing. And when I saw this film for the first time, I didn't really watch too many horror films, so I didn't really know too much of like just horror in general. Like I didn't have too much like experience with it. So this was kind of one of the first ones I saw where I was like, oh, that was kind of a little scary. So it's really sad to say, but rewatching this now that I'm a lot more of a horror fan than I was when I first saw it, this movie is just really boring. And it just, to me, I guess how I'd kind of describe it, rewatching it, was just like, it feels like a really long first act, and then the movie just kind of ends all of a sudden when it gets really interesting in the last 5 minutes. I can obviously get into my issues with this and everything. So Nabahi, what is your experience with this film?
This was a movie that was tracking very highly for me before its release. I was super intrigued by it. It premiered at some festival where there was just tons of glowing reception and reviews, and me being a horror fan, definitely in the time period when this came out, horror was very stagnant for me. I wanted to see something that really just kind of blew my mind. And I think I was kind of looking in the wrong place. I think I was looking more for like the stuff that, the general populace would really like. I was looking for stuff that had the glowing reviews. Now being definitely a more knowledgeable horror fan, I've come to realize that a lot of the great horror movies are the ones that you don't really see talked about, you know, at the forefront of media, at the forefront of
the mainstream,
you know, criticism. So hearing that the reviews this was getting, and definitely when the trailer came out and it had all these little blurbs attached to it, you know, scariest horror movie in years. This thing's gonna really make your blood run and everything. I was just like, all right, like this looks interesting. So I think the week after it came out, you know, me and my family went to go see it, and I just didn't have the reception that most other people had. I felt really kind of alienated with this movie. I really did not enjoy it at all. I didn't find really much redeeming qualities about this movie. I really walked away with just kind of just a sour taste in my mouth of why did everyone else love this movie? Years later, again, I felt the same way, and just seeing now the reflective look that this movie was getting of people really enjoying it, people really loving it. And like I said, people really suggesting this movie as, you know, one of the horror staples. I was just like, what? Like, and I still feel that way. I still feel like I'm just on some other island, or honestly, some other planet when it comes to this movie, because so many people I know love this movie, and every time I just think back to my first experience watching it, and I just can't help but wonder why. You know, this movie just never worked for me. This movie just felt overly long, and now that I'm looking at it, it's an hour and 30 minutes. Yet I feel like I was in the theater for 2 hours.
I was gonna say that's so funny. It gets overly long.
Nothing happens, and that's my thing with horror. Is just like, come on, you have to. You're the one setting this up. You're the one selling us on this thing. You're the one who's titling it The Witch or The Vavitch or whatever the hell it's called. You're the one approving these trailers that are coming out. You're the one in your interviews hyping this up. And then for nothing really to happen, I'm just like, come on. Okay. One thing I'll say, rewatching this movie, this is kind of my general walkaway with it. It is superbly well made. The cinematography, the costume designs, the setting, like the way this thing is put together is honestly amazing. And I feel that way a lot about his movies, like even watching The Lighthouse and everything. It's just, there is a craft that is there that really you're just surprised. Like here this young filmmaker is, and he's making his movies and they have this amazing look to them. Is just honestly shocking. The performances in this movie are
really good.
Yeah,
like
they're really
from
good.
Anya Taylor-Joy. She's always great in everything. I'm always happy to see her. And I believe actually this was like one of the first films I saw her in too.
Same.
And it's crazy to think this is like one of her earliest performances too, you know, with some of the things she's able to pull off. I really loved her range in this film. And I would say also Ralph Ineson, would say was like probably one of my other favorite performances rewatching this, you know. You can just tell like he has like kind of a history to him, and he's gone through a lot, you know. And that's something I just kind of wish the film maybe showcased a little bit more, because they don't really showcase it that much. And I guess something that I find kind of frustrating on a rewatch is there really isn't that much of like a family dynamic to this, you know? And I felt like it was such a missed opportunity to maybe showcase like the family being maybe divided, you know, like maybe because they kind of tease it a little bit with like the father and daughter being together, you know, the father being a lot more sympathetic towards Thomason, you know, and the mother is just like, you know, being more caring to like her twins and everything. I just wish like they showed that a lot more, because like you get little tastes of it, but that's just kind of it, you know. It just feels like it's just set up and then they don't expand it in any way at all, and then they just die, and that's it.
I really appreciate the craft he puts behind this, especially when it comes to obviously trying to be authentic to the times. You know, there's an appreciation there that, okay, this guy took that chance and he went for it, you know. I'm in the camp of, it didn't really serve much purpose for me, you know, hearing these guys talking this old English and everything.
I don't think it would have changed much.
Yeah,
though,
it really,
honestly.
for me, it creates a detachment there. And that's the thing, like this family dynamic. That's generally what I hear when people talk about this movie is you're seeing this family break apart. You're seeing the self-destruction behind, you know, following this religion and everything. And that sounds interesting. Like hearing people talk about that sounds very interesting.
It's a cool concept, but it's not executed all
and
that
that's
well.
the thing, like the way it's executed, I'm just like, I don't feel that attachment. Like when things start going bad, yes, it's interesting, but at no point am I caring for any of these kids. I'm not caring for anything that's going on with this family. And I'm just like, really? Like I for how well this thing is made and everything, I feel like I should be right there with them.
You would hope like the story and characters would be as strong as the technical aspects, you know? And I think this is kind of one of those instances where it's like the technical aspects shine, but the story and characters, like especially on a rewatch, it's just all of it falls apart, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Even like the quote unquote scares in this film, like there's this whole thing with like the baby at the beginning.
Yeah.
And honestly, it just feels like shock value to me. It just feels like so forced. It just feels gross and disgusting and not in a good way. And also they reveal this witch like literally like the first 10 minutes of your movie. I'm like, isn't that something you should do like at the end? And then like that, it could be like a satisfying payoff. That's why in God's name would you reveal the witch in the beginning of your movie?
And it's like, why are you going to have this conflicting storyline of whether this family is trying to figure out if this witch is real? And that's like one of the things driving your story. We know it's real. So I'm like, whoa,
what's the point?
Why? I literally just saw this witch mutilate a baby. And here I am seeing this family. They're like, we don't know if it's real and this. And I'm just like, what? Like you showed it to us. Like why? That decision just baffles me. It's like, you want to show us their perspective of this family, you know, do that more. Show us the limited viewpoint that they have. Like how they show in the beginning, like them looking at this tree line. There's a lot of mysterious, you know,
things going on in like that kind of forest area.
Exactly.
Yeah, it creates like kind of an interesting dark atmosphere. And then they just kind of like just ruin it, or they don't really like commit to. I think that's kind of the problem with this. I feel like they set up a lot of different ideas, but I just feel like, I don't know if it was just Eggers was just scared to like commit to one thing. So he was just like, well, let me just throw it at you, you know, and see which one you connect with the most.
Yeah. And that's why going along with this family and them not knowing if this witch is real, they think it's, you know, Thomason, and it's just like,
that's an interesting mystery aspect, but again, because they reveal it so early on, it's like, oh, well, it's kind of gone. So what's even the point? And
it's like us as an audience, at least me, I know she didn't take the baby
because she was right there. Yeah.
And it's like, well, here this family is accusing this girl, and it's like, okay. And like, I get it. Like part of it is to show that this religion is, you know, this accusing thing, you know,
pointing fingers. Yeah.
We're meant to know that she didn't take it. And like, I get that. But with how far they lean into it with this family, you know, pointing the fingers and everything, I kind of would have liked some kind of mystery as to like, okay, wait, did she do it? I would have liked to have felt that kind of back and forth in my head.
Yeah, like a whodunit, you know?
Well, even then, just kind of like trusting the girl and then trusting the family, you know? I would have liked to have this conflicting feeling while watching this movie, you know?
Yeah.
But all of that is immediately taken away because we know what it was. We saw it happen. And sure, by the end, when you see how this girl, you know, sides with whoever, it's like, oh, okay, like I guess, but
it doesn't feel earned though. It's not even satisfying.
It really doesn't.
It just feels like it was the start of like, it's like the second act is like about to start, and that's where the interesting part comes in. But it's like, nope, that's the ending. Also, this goat or whatever they keep showing, it's like this black goat. Rewatching this was like one of the goofiest kills. Is like it's like between him and this black goat. The black. I'm sorry. The black goat like just rams into him. All the wood just comes down. I was just like, and it's just like this like close up shot on the goat. I'm like, is that supposed to be scary? Am I supposed? It would have been funnier if the goat started to scream or something, you know.
Yeah.
And then at the end, when obviously they reveal this whole witch thing and everything, you just see like this kind of shot of like the goat transform into a human, and he just comes out of nowhere, whispers something into her ear.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what was that?
Yeah.
What was that? I was just like out of left field, out of nowhere. I was like, oh, okay, I guess it was a shapeshifter. Not once did they ever like set this up or anything. They just kind of throw it at you. Also, there's some stuff with like the brother character where they show like this extreme close-up shot of like her boobs or something, and they do it like twice in the film, and I was just like, okay, that's really creepy and weird.
Yeah.
And I get it, like, he's probably an adolescent and everything, but I'm just like, okay, dude, that's like really weird. Like that's your sister, bro. Stop looking right there.
There is with some of the things they choose in this movie, I feel like some of it can work really well. Like there's a scene where this brother is going through the woods and everything, and he's by himself. And there's a lot of uneasy feelings with that, and so the cinematography in that scene is really great. And I just remember thinking in my head, like, oh, this is going to amp up. And I remember like actually kind of getting a little nervous at that scene. And then it just kind of does something that I felt like wasn't really a good payoff to that buildup, and it's this girl.
It's like this witch or whatever. Yeah. She's all like young,
and I just
and then she like kisses him or whatever. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah,
what am I watching, bro?
That just there's a lot of intrigue with some of these setups, and then the payoff happens, and I'm like, oh, come on.
We could have. It's so funny. I was thinking about what you said during that weapons discussion about like slow burns and everything. Yeah. I think this is like an example of how to not do a slow burn, because it's like, they tease so much with the tension and everything, but then by the end, it just feels like a little lighter, you know, or even, maybe not even a lighter, maybe like a little matchstick.
Exactly.
Honestly.
It's like, show us when it's really popping off. And one of the scenes that really, I feel like works really well and really was like, oh shit, that's scary. And then the movie's done is, she's stuck with this goat and everything.
Oh yeah, she's all naked and everything. She's just like little ritual of like witches dancing or whatever.
And it's this scene where she's stuck with this thing. She can't escape because the family put her in there. And then you hear this voice. Oh, I was like, all right, that's pretty scary. And then it says a stupid line, and then 2 minutes later the movie's done. And I'm like, see, there's a lot of good steps, and I'm just like kind of waiting for like a good payoff of something that I think is scary, and it just doesn't happen. So I guess maybe that's where a lot of my criticism lies. And I guess that's where a lot of people might enjoy this movie, is what they find scary is different from what I find scary. Right. A lot of people think that this family falling apart, these parents accusing this girl, the destruction of a religion and everything is scary. And like, I understand that. And I can see that. But if for someone like me to really get invested in that, I feel like there was maybe a better way to go about this. Maybe focus on that stuff a lot more. And that's the thing, is just like have some of this stuff happen, really kind of revolve around that. And I just feel like things just feel really aimless with this movie, like showing the witch, showing the kid in the forest, he runs into her, showing the abduction of this child and everything. And it's just like all these scenes happen. It feels
kind of non-linear in like a really terrible way. It's just like, it feels like all this stuff with like the witch is like supposed to be at like the end or something. Yeah. But then they were just like, well, let's just show it in the beginning just so people can say that we showed the witch or whatever, That's it's kind of how it feels. And I guess maybe that's kind of why it's like, with this being his directorial debut, is maybe, I don't know if it was maybe he was trying to like figure out like how to kind of structure a story like this. I really don't know. That's kind of the thing I'm at with this,
Yeah. And I would have really liked to have seen just how a young filmmaker is going to go about these things, handling the reveal of this, witch and everything, I felt like really could have been something that really could have shocked me, and granted it does, but I think anytime gore and stuff like that plays a part into, a reveal or into horror elements, horror movie, it feels very kind of safe, and that's my thing with a lot of gore and horror movies is just like gore is gore, if you show someone's arm getting cut off, 99% of the people watching are going to have a visceral reaction to that because it's violent, and
it's disturbing.
And that's the thing. Like, to me, that feels very safe in terms of filmmaking.
It just doesn't feel purposeful. That's kind of the thing too. Also,
it's like it's such a baseline thought, of showing gore and violence, and really, like, does it take that much to really achieve it? Not really, but how you go about it can be something that, kind of subverts my expectation of like, yeah, I'm watching gore, but this is different. This is done in a different way. So I think that's why with a lot of horror movies that I like and I enjoy, I really want to have something that feels creepy, feels scary, gets under my skin, but it's something that I didn't really think of before or think was that scary or even think that I was going to see that in this movie, and that's sure. The baby and everything getting murdered or whatever. I didn't think I was going to see that, but to be honest,
it wasn't that good though. And it was just terrible.
It just felt like, again, just kind of baseline thinking of, you're showing a baby being mutilated. 99% of the people are not going to find that enjoyable, but is that scary? Is that something
it's not scary?
No, like not really. Like, I'm sorry. That's just, I guess, where I have a difference of opinion with a lot of the other people who enjoy this movie. I don't know if I'm making sense right now. I hope I am, but I really don't find that stuff all that scary, Yeah.
I think my problem with this, honestly, is just like, it's not really a horror film. Mm-hmm. It's really just a drama film pretending to be a horror film, honestly, and I feel like this film is just kind of a scam for that. I'm like, why are you trying to pretend to be something that like you're not, you know, like, why don't you just lean more into the horror stuff? Like, Nabahi told me something, before we recorded was that there was an interview, I guess Robert Eggers gave where he doesn't even like horror films. So I'm like, why are you even bothering trying to add in elements that are not that interesting to you? Like, if you want to just make a drama and commit to it. That's something I'll talk to, like with Wallied's point, is it does kind of leave a feeling of things feeling half-baked, if someone really enjoyed horror and, horror movies, they might be more invested and more inclined to follow these through lines, follow the setups that you have and really see them through, and I think that's why I'm walking away with a feeling of what happened, because these elements feel half-baked. They don't feel fully thought out. They don't feel fully conclusive, and that's why I'm like, I agree with Wallied. It's like, well, if you wanted to do that and just show this destruction of this family, like, that's easy. You can do that. You could just make that the whole movie. And it's like anyone can add in kind of half-baked ideas on any type of movie and anything like that. But the aspects that I really enjoyed is this whole family thing. Show more of that. Show the family what it was like living under this religion and everything, because then I could have that juxtaposition of this is what it's like when things are supposed to be good. Now I'm seeing this other side of when things are supposed to be bad and shit's hitting the fan, okay, now I can see both aspects, but right now I'm just kind of seeing one. So I really am, I don't really have much feeling or much involvement with that, Yeah. And I think that would have helped more if just the family dynamic was just a lot more well written too. Also, it's just like, if you expanded that and just like showcase maybe like a little bit, like you get a little bit of it like at the beginning, and then you get a bit of it in the middle. But again, most of it is focused on the witch and everything, which kind of isn't that interesting, honestly, at like the large grand scheme of things, you know? And then of course they keep setting the stuff up with like the animals, and then and I was thinking like, oh, okay, maybe it's like a plague type of thing. But again, it's just they show one scene of it and they don't ever address it like ever again.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm like, okay, what was the point?
And by the end and everything, nothing really feels like it was working towards that. You know, I just, at least for me, seeing her go with these witches and everything, I understand what it's trying to do. But throughout the movie and everything, I just didn't really feel like we came to that, you know, final decision organically. It really, for me, just felt just kind of jarring. And then the movie ends anyways. And I'm just like,
well, there was no point to it anyways to begin with, you know? And then I feel like something that could have been better if you wanted to maybe showcase that witch aspect more was maybe Thomasin befriends one of the witches. Maybe she like disguises herself as like someone that's like her age, you know, and maybe showcase that relationship, you know, that could maybe be something you could expand upon if you want to showcase that aspect.
And that finale could have felt very, you know, left of field, very shocking.
Yeah. And then like lure her into that like witch cult type of thing.
But then they show like them showing these witches in the beginning and everything. It's just like, okay, like I really feel like this movie was a misstep. If you wanted to show this family drama and you know, obviously the destruction of it, you know, just show more of that. You know, maybe think of a way to rework this witch aspect. You know, and I don't know, just like don't really feel compelled like you have to be this movie that you kind of don't want to be, you know?
Exactly.
And I can only say that because hearing these interviews with him, it's just like, to me, it just sounds like he's not really a big fan of this type of stuff. You know, he doesn't like showing, you know, the monsters and everything. He likes the vagueness of it. He likes and
sometimes that's fine, but I feel like it would be more satisfying of a payoff when you do show that monster at the end, you know, and because like that's some of my favorite horror films is where they do, whether it's through like a glimpse, like with the Babadook, or, you know, maybe something like Wreck where they, you know, like the last one we were just talking about, you know, like where they show the monster, it feels like a nice satisfying payoff to everything you watch. And it's like, to me, it's like they're pulling out like their final trick out of their, you know, card deck, you know, and it's just like, wow, that's like, I didn't think the movie could get more scarier than that. But I feel like with this, it's like you have a little bit there, but then you just kind of fizzle out and you go into something else that is just like, oh, okay, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess we're just going to be more of a drama film. And that's kind of why I don't really like this elevated horror term either, just because it's like, what's elevated about it? What's the horror of it? Like, I watching this film, like for me, my whole like rewatching this, it's just like, I felt almost little to nothing. I was just bored. It just feels soulless to me. Like there's just this like lifeless quality to it. Like, yeah, it's well made and everything, you know, and yeah, like obviously, like, you know, there are like technical aspects that are great, but that's all it is. It's just technical aspects. There's like nothing else there.
Yeah. And it's like, it's not even to the point enough where I feel like this guy has like his own defining kind of fingerprint. It's even just watching this movie, maybe more so with The Lighthouse, but with this movie, it's just like, what am I left to really walk away with? I don't really feel like I was seeing a director's, you know, wholly unique vision, because I felt like it was pulling from aspects of a lot of different things.
And it's so funny in the credits because it says, oh, I pulled from different folk stories and everything. Yeah. So he's just literally just admitting he's just pulling from other influences.
And it's just like, I want to see, you know, his whole unique vision and everything, and really see him commit to that. You know, again, it just really feels like someone who doesn't like horror making a movie and putting in these aspects to kind of prop it up in a certain way, you know? And it's one thing to have this whole religion and everything, but one thing that I felt like could have benefited the movie is portraying that to us, portraying that to the normal audience, because it's like, I hate it when I have critiques about a movie and what I hear is a lot of external sources, or people turn to those external sources to kind of not prove their point, but to really justify what the movie tried to do. And that's what I hear a lot with this movie when I have critiques about it, is people are like, well, back then that was something that was really scary, was the idea that these young girls could be witches and things. And I'm just like, yeah, but the movie didn't really portray that to me because
they didn't show it.
It shows this family being isolated. And sure, these parents are thinking this about this girl, but I don't know about society and what they think of these witches at the time.
Were you in the 1620s?
And that's the thing. Like, I have to go and read a history book to find out about what was going on in the 1620s. And it's just like,
well, that should be the job of the movie, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me go look for it.
And it's just like, I hate that. I hate it when people use those. I don't hate it, but it's just something that I'm just like,
it just feels like an excuse, though.
Yeah.
To justify like why you kind of liked it.
Why do I need to go and do homework to figure out, the motivations and things behind these characters? And it's like,
that doesn't make it enjoyable, though.
I really would have liked if this film would have showed that side, really showed what it was like for these people at this young age, growing up in this time period, when there was this,
because that is very compelling.
Exactly. And hearing about these ideas on paper, and that's my thing with Robert Eggers, is hearing about these ideas, man, they sound really interesting, but somewhere along the line, things are lost in translation.
I think he just gets too carried away.
Yeah.
I think that's the problem with a lot of his films, not even this film, but The Northman also. It's like, you have cool ideas, and then you don't do anything with it, and then we just rush everything in like the third act. It's the same thing Ari Aster does. It's the same thing this guy does. I don't get it.
And I'm really trying to figure out where this director is going to go, because it's like he had the 2 horror movies, then he had that movie outside of it. And then it seems like he's getting back into it now with Nosferatu. I haven't watched it. I need to watch it.
I tried watching it. I really could not get into it, honestly.
And it's just like, I really want to feel something with this director, because again, I think he does a lot of things very well. I think he does so many things very well. And it's just somewhere along the line, like, I just have this disconnect with his movies, and I walk away feeling very underwhelmed. And it's just so shocking to me, because people really love these movies. And I'm just like, what am I missing? Like, where's the misstep, And again, I kind of associate it with, maybe I grew up with more, traditional type horror things. Maybe if I had seen this first, maybe I might feel a lot more uneasy, and it really could have had an effect on me.
See, that's the thing, because I saw this first before I got into horror, and it did have a little bit of that uneasiness, but I still felt a little bit like kind of unsatisfied at certain points. So now, like, kind of rewatching this now as like a bigger horror fan, and I obviously have a lot more of an idea of like the things that scare me and don't, I just felt just kind of empty. I've just felt so disappointed with this on a rewatch.
And that's something I'll say again, just to kind of reiterate my point, is what I really enjoy in horror is when, the director, the writers, they have an idea in their head of maybe a monster, something that is hard to explain. Right. But they do such a good job, and they go about it in the right way, that even they convince me to believe that, oh, this might be real.
I mean, look at the thing. Like, that is a literally unexplainable monster thing. And look at how John Carpenter and Bob Boutin are able to like pull that off.
And they jump to that challenge. They read the story. They saw the other movie of this monster that can imitate other people, and they did their best to convey that on film. And that's my thing with this movie, is like, you have this witch and everything, and you want to show all this, and you show the devil and all this stuff at one point. Don't be afraid. Show me it, show me,
commit to it.
Show me the idea in your head. Show me what you are seeing and you find scary. And it's just like, at no point do I ever really feel like I saw what was in his head. I just feel like I was seeing a bunch of different hints and interpretations, but I wanted to see something that
but
really
that's kind of
unique.
All it is, though. It's just interpretations and implications,
Yeah.
And sometimes like that can work, like for a movie like House, for example. Like, I love that movie a lot because, a lot of it is that fear of the unknown, but they do showcase aspects of like things that are very scary. Like a piano literally eats a girl at a certain point, like that's scary, man. Yeah. But with this film, it's like you have the ideas there, but yet we lost some of the ingredients in that dish.
Yeah. And I wanted to walk away with a feeling that was more, wow, that was something that needs to be seen. That was something that felt like it had a payoff, you know?
Yeah.
Because I think that's what a lot of people think with horror movies is that payoff.
That can really make or break like a horror film for me personally.
And again, like that's one of the, you know, braver aspects of horror is sure, there's a baseline that most people can get involved with the idea of, you know, getting murdered or getting killed or whatever. But again, a bravery is there of, yeah, you're taking something that technically doesn't exist, whether it's a monster or alien, ghost or whatever, and you're trying to convince us as an audience that it does, you know?
Yeah. And I think that's a very important thing to do as a filmmaker too, is to be able to do that. It's like such a hard thing to pull off.
Yeah. And when it works, you know? I walk away with a feeling of, nope, that director could have only made that movie. That director could have only went about it in this way. With this film, I don't feel that. I like, sure, the way it pans out in the end, yeah, it does feel like I'm watching his unique vision or whatever, but
it's the last 5 minutes though. I'm like, come on.
And I want more. I wanted to see more of that side, you know? And again, like I would like for him to really just focus on that more. Focus on the drama. You know, he does that well.
Yeah.
You know, focus on those aspects. Make something that is maybe out of his wheelhouse a little bit, you know? And granted, maybe him as a filmmaker, he enjoys that stuff, which is great and everything.
And that's totally fine. But like, you got to change it up, man. Yeah. Come on.
Again, I know I'm on like a totally different planet when it comes to this movie. I know people really enjoy this movie and that's totally great and everything. And I'm
happy there's other people that can enjoy this, you know? And I was one of those people, and now just kind of rewatching it, I don't enjoy this as much as I used to, unfortunately.
So yeah, I think score wise, with how well and everything it's made, and you know, it really, there's a talent there behind this. I'm definitely probably at like a 5 out of 10. Okay. I don't think it's the worst thing I've ever seen at all. I don't think it's horrible or, you know, you shouldn't watch this movie. I think you should watch this movie and really kind of see if it's something that works for you.
Yeah. Because it is a very divisive film, you know? It's kind of one of those films like you either kind of love or you kind of hate, you know?
Yeah. And I guess, again, like the implication is there of what do you enjoy more? You know, do you enjoy a horror movie that really goes for a lot of those out there aspects and stuff, or do you feel you enjoy something that's maybe more left to like implication? You know, you kind of have to decide what you really find scary and kind of search more movies like that. Again, I enjoy the really, you know, totally out there aspects and just seeing how that director portrays that to someone like me, you know. I don't really care too much for implications. And if there are, I really want to see something that feels like a satisfying payoff, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, I'm at like a 5 out of 10.
Okay. Yeah. Disheartening to say for sure, but definitely not as good as I remember, unfortunately. A lot of setups, you know, a lot of interesting concepts. However, they don't really do much with them, unfortunately, and it just leaves me very underwhelmed and very just like frustrated. For me, I just kind of felt like there was a lot of like, again, like the family dynamic can be very interesting, but they really don't showcase it in a very interesting or unique way. And it's something I just wish they maybe showed more, was the family being a lot more divisive, you know, because you get little hints of it. But again, it's just little hints, you know. But I will say there are some really good performances from Anya Taylor-Joy and Ralph Ineson, like I mentioned. Some of the stuff with the animals was just absolutely terrible. The stuff with the witches, I just felt like was, again, just another really missed opportunity for me. Sure, you know, it is well made on that level, but I honestly, I'm talking more my emotional, personal side of this. I think score, I think I'm at a 3. I think I'm at a 3 out of 10, honestly. Wow. Yeah, this was just really disappointing to me. You know, to me, again, like I kind of mentioned at the beginning, it just feels like a really long first act that doesn't go anywhere. And that really pisses me off when you just like, you have 90 minutes, you know, you can't waste time. You cannot waste time with a 90-minute film. You know, you got to make sure you're on top of it. You know, you got to make sure you're not just setting things up and then just like leaving them and then just not doing anything with them, you know. So not a very good folk tale, unfortunately.
Let us know what you guys think. I know, again, we're definitely in the minority probably when it comes to this movie.
Unfortunately. And I really wanted to like this on a rewatch also, you know, but I just found myself just being very unsatisfied and frustrated.
I definitely think it's something that is worth watching. Definitely check it out. Because I know there are fans of this type of horror, you know, the whole elevated horror thing, which again, like that's great. I love that there's
an audience for it. Yeah,
there's tons of different aspects when it comes to horror. You know, it's just not you know, a kind of narrow genre that some people really put it in. So I guess I do applaud this film for doing that, is something that kind of steps outside of the boundaries of horror, you know? So yeah, watch it. Let us know what you guys think. Again, I know I'm in the minority when it comes to this movie.
I'm definitely in the minority now.
So yeah, just let us know. I mean, if you go onto any review site, you'll probably see the exact opposite of what
very
I'm
glowing
saying.
reviews, you know, but that's always kind of interesting though, to kind of have that kind of opposite effect, you know.
But I am definitely very intrigued by Robert Eggers as a director. You know, I really want to see some other things from him. I want to see maybe a different side to him.
I would say that, but then I saw his article recently where he was like, I don't want to do a movie with a phone. I don't want to do a movie with a car. I just want to stick to doing stuff that's like pre-1950s.
Dang.
So yeah, that also like really pissed me off with him too. So that's also kind of why I'm like, okay, I don't think I want to watch your stuff anymore.
It's like step outside of your comfort zone, you know. If you have a hard time with it and that's literally what he's doing in this movie. He doesn't like horror, so he's kind of jumping into something that he doesn't really enjoy, you know.
Yeah.
And maybe step outside of your comfort zone and see what else you can do, you know. Maybe that's something with directors in general that does kind of bother me nowadays. Is I feel like they kind of just stick to their wheelhouse. And that's it.
I'm noticing that so much with him too, because he's just at this point, especially like I said, I tried watching Nosferatu, you know, I watched The Northman, you know, and I'm just like, dude, like just change it up, you know, like try out something different, try out something that's a little bit more, you know, like what would be like a modern take, you know, like that's kind of interesting, you know?
And that's one thing I really enjoy when artists kind of see that flaw themselves, is like, I kind of just make the same thing
over and over again.
I kind of do the same thing. I want to do something different. You know, I want to push the boundaries of, you know, what I find comfortable, you know, and I'm like, that to me is interesting. I like it when an artist kind of thinks in that way.
I had one of the questions that came up to me while watching this film, because obviously it's in that A24 camp and that elevated, God, hate using this term, elevated horror camp. What do you feel? I guess like my kind of question is like, how do we define pretentiousness in film? You know, we've discussed it kind of briefly earlier with Ridley Scott, and then obviously Ford Coppola with like Megalopolis and all that crap. But I don't know. That was kind of something I feel like I noticed so much in this film, is like, it just has this like just pretentiousness that it thinks it's just like so much more like dramatic and scarier than it is, but it just doesn't, you know. And I feel like it tries to be like this high art type of thing when I'm like, it's kind of not, you know. So where do you kind of draw that line?
I think for me, when it comes to that term, that I notice it the most is when it detracts from the narrative that you're trying to tell. If I don't have a good understanding of your characters, if I don't have a good understanding of, you know, setting, location, if I don't really fully feel like I'm getting all the best aspects of your story, it kind of shows to me as a director, you don't find that as a priority. You think that your priority might be something else, you know, whether it's cinematography, whether it's the best acting or whatever. It's like, I need to, for me, again, filmmaking is narrative. Filmmaking is storytelling. You know, I want to know your characters as well as you do. I want to know what's going on inside of your head when it comes to portraying this story. And if you kind of detract from that, and if by the end, that's kind of one of my main criticisms, then I'm kind of left with feeling like you didn't really think of that as a priority. You know, you thought, oh, I want to focus on these other aspects. I want to do this. And it's just like, come on. Like, and that's my thing is like some of my favorite movies is like that is the point behind this filmmakers. They had an idea in their head and a story, and they wanted to tell that, you know? So maybe a lot of stuff like, I guess examples like M. Night Shyamalan, you know, when he's doing stuff like there are some of his films where he just has some of the most out of place shots that just feel so distracting. And it's just like, oh, look at this direction that I'm doing. The story doesn't really matter right now. Look at this shot I set up and look at how weird it looks and how out of place it feels. And it's just like, well, right now that's so jarring that I'm not even focusing on your story.
It's so funny because I feel this way with like Gaspar Noé with like some of his films, because he'll do this like rotating 360 camera thing, and I'm just like, or he'll just showcase these shots where it's like these flashing lights, and it's just like, what is the purpose of this? Are you trying to give somebody like a seizure or something? You know, it's kind of like frustrating. I guess for me, it's just like if it doesn't like feel essential to the story, you know, and you're just kind of using it as like a way to just like show off how artful you can be. I think that's where I find that line of like, that's pretty pretentious, you know, or just when I see filmmakers in interviews and they're just talking about like how they're just like the greatest, you know, they feel entitled, you know, kind of like we mentioned with Scott, but also with, you know, I guess I just kind of noticed that too with Eggers now, especially with like that one interview I was mentioning of like, oh, I don't want to make a movie with a car. Oh, I don't want to make a movie with a phone. How dare you other filmmakers do that? I'm like, what's wrong with that though? Like there's nothing like you can showcase that. I like searching is a perfect example of how to utilize technology in film, you know. It's not like it's an impossible task to do. Granted, you know, sometimes they portray it in a not so great way, but there are effective ways of showcasing that, you know. And that to me feels like kind of pretentious, like, oh, there's only one specific way of how to make a film, you know. I don't like that because there isn't a specific way. You can tell a story or a film in so many different mediums in different ways, you know? So that also really bothers me when I see filmmakers say that like, oh, because it's high budget, that means it's really bad. But the stuff that's low budget is really, really good. And it's like, no, that's not always the case. Yeah.
And I really like it. This was kind of my, one of my first baseline thoughts when I was kind of defining movies that I liked is, if everything feels like it does its best job to convey everything within the movie, I think is your best bet on something that's really well made and really good. If I have to go to like interviews and kind of find out the explanation outside of the movie as to the choices you made and the direction that you chose, I feel like that kind of shows that your movie didn't do the best job of conveying your thoughts and your ideas, you know? So that kind of does invoke a feeling of pretentiousness when artists have to do these interviews and be like, that's what I meant by this. And that's what
they have to do this whole explanation.
And it's just like,
and song and dance
but
about
then
it.
Sometimes when they're explaining it, I'm like, actually, you know what? I understand that. And I get that, but your movie didn't convey that because
you didn't do a good job as a filmmaker to execute that.
And I'm left with the feeling of like, man, what you said sounds really good, but
why don't you portray that in the film?
Didn't
like
say it, you know? So yeah, I do feel kind of a pretentiousness with that. I also do feel a pretentiousness. I kind of draw a line when things put down other things, you know?
Yeah.
And I guess more so I find that in horror. And honestly, with that term elevated horror kind of shows that we're above regular horror, you know? We're above all that baseline stuff that the average people enjoy, but this is something that's more propped up.
This is more thoughtful, you know?
And it's just like, come on.
It's
like,
really not, though.
It's like, here you are to elevate other things. You need to shoot down other things, and you need to, and it's just like, just say, like, that did a good job. I liked what that did, but I'm trying to do something that's different, And it's
that's
just like,
okay. You don't have to pretend to be something that you're not.
And it's like, in order to have that term elevated horror, all these other films had to break that ground for you. They had to do that. They had to do the stuff that maybe you find cheesy or the stuff that you don't like. But at least they kind of did that, so that way you can decide whether or not you want to do something that's the same or different,
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess I kind of see that the most with this genre in general is kind of almost a put down type mentality,
which is really unfortunate because I think that I feel like horror, I feel like that's like kind of the genre you could be the most creative in, especially when you have limited resources. You can do so much with like such a limited budget, you know, like that's really awesome.
Yeah. So I don't know, pretentiousness, it really is an unfortunate thing sometimes.
I feel like this is kind of the medium I see it in the most. Yeah. Unfortunately.
Really, I see it definitely a lot. And I will say that's what I've been kind of seeing over the past 10, 15 years when these types of movies kind of started is like this, need to be better. And granted, yeah, there was a lot of mediocre stuff going on in horror at the time. I understand that. There was, just this endless, weirdness of remakes, of, reboots, of sequels, But there's a lot of good stuff. Like we've seen Wreck, like we've seen The Descent. There was good things coming out in those time periods. We can't just knock that whole time period.
You can't just sweep all that under the rug just for like a handful of remakes.
That was awful, and now we're making good stuff. It's just like, no, there was definitely just as ambitious filmmakers as there are now.
Yeah, and I think if anything, this is probably the best time to be like a filmmaker and to have new films coming out because there's just so many things. I guess that's kind of the one plus side with more films coming out is that you get to hear more voices now more than ever.
Mm-hmm. And again, this is just kind of a trend I've been noticing. I don't know for sure, but I feel like maybe we are kind of coming to the tail end of this elevated horror era,
Yeah.
Which I'm interested to see, are we going back to are we going to see if we kind of blend both genres, and subgenres? That's something that I would really enjoy. Because I feel like there are a lot of strong points when it does come to this, era of elevated horror. I'm not trying to knock it as a whole.
No, because there is some good drama in there, but that's the thing is that it's just mostly drama, and that's kind of it.
Yeah. So yeah, with this movie, and just A24 horror in general, I had the worst kind of start to it. I watched this movie that I didn't enjoy. And then after I saw It Comes at Night, and I really didn't enjoy that one.
Oh, I've heard of that one. I've never seen that.
It's a lot like this. Well, actually, it's even more so than this movie where it promises something and it just doesn't deliver on it at all.
Yeah, that's not good.
So yeah, my opinion of this whole era is kind of very soured to start with. But I've seen a lot of great movies in this time period and everything that I really enjoy. So, it's quite the quite interesting to see how this era is going to be defined.
Yeah,
I guess when
quite an era for sure. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. What do you got for next time?
Next time, I was thinking we kind of do something that maybe is a bit more safe in terms of some people. This was a movie that was hyped up for me for a long time. And then I finally got around to seeing it around 5 or 6 years ago. And I was, again, like most times, I was kind of shocked how much I enjoyed it. A lot of times expectation can get so high that you just feel kind of disappointed when a movie comes out or when you eventually see it. I do my best to kind of let the hype died down just a little bit, so that way I'm not expecting the greatest thing ever made, you know?
Yeah, because it's a hype bar to set,
yeah.
let's be honest.
But this, as far as this year goes, will probably be one of the more standard, you know, horror movies, kind of one of the ones that really defined what we love in horror and everything. Again, I saw it and I really enjoyed it. I was really kind of shocked with how much I enjoyed it. We're going to watch The Exorcist.
Okay.
I really walked away with just, wow, that was actually really good.
Oh, nice.
And I really didn't think it was going to be, because I kind of was like, I'd seen scenes and everything. I was like, it's kind of cheesy or whatever. But yeah, by the end of this movie, I was like, that was actually really good. And I was kind of surprised how much I enjoyed it, because I really didn't think I was going to. So yeah. I know there's tons of sequels and I know there's reboots and all that stuff going on.
Yeah.
But we're going to watch the original Exorcist. Came out in 1973.
All right.
Yeah. And it won tons of awards and everything. It's one of the few horror movies that was nominated for Best Picture.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
At least I believe so.
That is such a rarity to find.
And it won the Academy Award for, I think, Best Adapted Screenplay.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Not that awards mean anything.
Still, I mean, that's impressive for a horror film, because horror stuff never gets nominated, if ever rarely.
Yeah, it really is. It's rare when it happens. So yeah, this is something that critics really enjoy. I know audiences really enjoy, because we still have all the spinoffs and everything.
David Gordon Green made like a new Exorcist film.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
He went from Halloween to Exorcist.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
David Gordon Green.
But anyways, I've never seen this movie though before. This is one that's been on the back burner of like horror films I've definitely wanted to check out at like some point or another. So cool. This will be very exciting.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen The Exorcist, specifically the one in 1973, check it out. I really enjoyed it. And again, when I kind of watched this, I was a little more cynical on my film taste and everything. So the fact that I've grown out of it now, but the fact that back then I really wasn't expecting much and I walked away with something kind of is a testament to what this movie achieves, you know? Mm-hmm. So yeah, let us know what you guys think.
Cool. All right.
I know we had a lot of awful takes this episode, but thank you for listening to us.
Hopefully you guys stick with us. We'll lose all our subscribers by the end of the next episode.
Hopefully you stick around. But, you know, that's just something that I like when talking about movies is you're not going to love everything. You know, some movies you're not going to enjoy.
Especially stuff on like rewatch too. You like, maybe you liked it before, but then you have like a new perspective and different lens on it. It's like, that's really fascinating to me, you know?
And again, some of like my favorite movies, I know people don't enjoy them, and that's totally fine, you know?
Yeah, I mean, film is subjective at the end of the day, you know? I mean, obviously we can look at things in an objective way, but I think if we looked at things in an objective way, it wouldn't be as fun, you know, talk about.
And one thing that I guess I want to encourage people in general is, if you have, you know, different opinions and takes from other people, just do your best to kind of convey your points, you know?
Yeah.
That's something that I don't like now, when people say the best movie or the worst movie, and then they kind of treat that as the defining statement and that's it. It's like, you got to back that up. You got to tell me why. And that's the thing, that's what I love enjoying in film conversation, is tell me why you didn't like it. Tell me what didn't work for you. You know, I like to hear that stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
Definitely. Yeah. It's just very compelling and interesting, you know, to see like why something worked for you or why it didn't work for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, perfect recommendation for the 50th episode. So,
nice. What the heck?
Yeah. So that's kind of exciting.
Perfect. So yeah, thank you guys for joining us. Thank you guys for subscribing and liking videos. I appreciate it so much. So yeah, hopefully
thank you to each and every one of you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good day. Good night, mates.
We'll see you on the next one.